Amerzone in a nutshell. Our nameless, faceless and noiseless protagonist's stomach is rumbling. He didn't have breakfast. Yet. So he breaks into a lighthouse at the coast of France, steals a giant egg and...
Where to boil it?
Apparently the local stove is not large enough, so he boards his special Amerzone delivery truck to go on a quest. Find a burner that's large and powerful enough for his third egg. After stopping at several locales to refuel, he finally reaches a semi-active volcano. While inviting the local president,
Call me Tony,
to join him for his breakfast feast, he realizes he had made a mistake. The birds hatch. Luckily, El Presidente reacts lightning fast, draws his gun and shoots those suckers down. Afterwards, both have their well-deserved breakfast.
Yummy!
A whitebird barbecue. Happy end.
So that was not really what happened. Well, not exactly. Anyway, welcome to this review of Amerzone, and if this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button and that sweet notification bell so you don't miss out on any reviews, crazy shorts and more. But without any further ado, let's dive into this review and answer the question if Amerzone is a sweet 6-minute egg or a hard-boiled relic of the past. Well, let's find out. Story is first. And don't worry, there will be a huge spoiler warning once we leave the beginning of the game. 1998, Brittany, France. Our vanilla first-person protagonist enters the stage and gets introduced to, well, himself. By no other than this one annoying postman.
You're the journalist, aren't you? I gave him your letter the other day.
Huh? You gave whom what letter?
Anyway,
He received another letter this morning. I put it in his mailbox.
so what? Why is this guy brabbling so much?
They always mean trouble. Hey, maybe you could take it to him.
Okay, this lazy wants us to do his bloody job, and then he gives our hero some useless advice.
He should see a doctor. Well, that's what I think anyway. Oh, and have a care. It looks like something fell from your bag over there.
Wrong. Our protagonist dumped that trash on purpose. It's the letter that explains his first gig from Mondial magazine to interview a guy named Professor Alexandre Valembois about his 1932 expedition to a made-up South American country called Amerzone. The name of the game. The prof was accused of falsifying his discoveries and his street cred, well, went down the toilet. There's really nothing else known about this isolated country, but hey, we are here, aren't we? Yeah, how convenient for this game's story, right? Anyway, our puppet also dropped his press card, which could not be any more useless. It's blank. This guy is not a journalist, yet he is, let's assume that he's a guy, well, nothing. An underachieving failure. The press card does not even give us players his name, birthday, gender, religion or shit like that. This Valembois guy from his assignment apparently lives in the lighthouse. Yeah, what a surprise, I know. So our stringer climbs up the hill, loots the old man's mailbox and takes a peek. I mean, why not? Apparently the prof wants the museum to pay for another one of his getaways. But the museum reacts firmly and non-verbally expresses to him that he can go and screw himself and that they are not funding that shit any longer.
Hey, maybe you could take it to him.
And now it becomes obvious why that wimp of a postie didn't want to deliver the letter himself. Anyway, as the bearer of bad news and as the responsible player that we are, we of course break into his place and head right up into his private chambers. Not 1 second too late.
You are the journalist, aren't you?
Alex Valembois is no other than Professor Indiana Jones himself. Anyway, Alex Jones does not seem to be in the best of conditions.
Well, my son. Too late for me. Too late. It's all over for me. I'm no longer in good health, my friend.
Yeah, no shit. And since we are here, a complete stranger I might add, He goes over the whole yarn.
Amerzone. All that. No one ever believed me.
Ooh, how intriguing. This set out to be a 5-star adventure game.
After all those years, the egg is still alive.
Come again.
I had planned to take it back over there to Amerzone.
Okay, so apparently while on his friendly trip to an imaginary country, he respectfully nicked an egg, feels guilty, and after bloody 70 years thinks that it's still alive, and now wants to return it. Well, wants us to return it.
You must go for me. You must go. Take the egg back. Take the egg of the white birds back to Amerzone.
And since we as hardcore gamers love to be manipulated, victimized, and being used, we go all IMF and choose to accept the mission.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
And at this point, if you don't want any story spoilers, go to here. So, Volahos dumps his shitty homework on us, the complacent protagonist, and dies. Instead of giving him a proper burial, calling the cops, or doing anything else that would make sense in this situation, we simply cover him in an old dirty blanket and set on a mission to loot the shit out of his place. And that's easier than you might think, since the prof conveniently left us a wall full of notes for us to get familiar with everything. And well, the key to the basement. But before heading down there and taking possession of his most precious belongings, we snoop around a bit to see if there's anything worth looting up here. And well, it seems like Prof. Alex was a fan of endangered species and not really part of the WWF. And I don't mean wrestling here.
Aww.
To chill a bit before starting to dive deep into some puzzles and to recover from the non-existent shock that the death of a complete stranger triggered inside our restless souls, we decide to take it down a notch, sit down and watch the tally.
Amerzone is a powerful country, and the people of Amerzone are its symbol. I am the father of the Amazonian people.
Come again.
A bloody propaganda ad about Volahos' buddy Antonio Alvarez? The guy that accompanied him on his expedition, killed or converted most natives and rose to power? Well, so after switching to another channel and watching some of my old-time favorites, we continue with good old Tony.
About 6,000 miles that way.
Anyway, this is a good way of learning about the backstory. And besides having a textbook that we can read, the devs also had pity on our souls and included a watchable version. Backstory.
My dear friend, I am an old man in the twilight of his years. I know now that I will never have the strength to set off again to the Amerzone. My only remaining hope resides in convincing you to go in my stead. Make amends for the wrong I have done to that country over 50 years ago.
Alrighty, this has went to Amerzone in the early 30s, around the same time that on the other side of the globe, Tommy Angelo was on his way to mobster glory. But what does this have to do with anything, you ask? Well, absolutely nothing. Just some self-advertisement here.
That's right.
Anyway, Alex became friends with a local named Tony, and them being BFFs basically led to the demise of a beautiful country.
And he was later to become the despotic leader that we now know today.
But that was not enough, was it? His second buddy,
The Reverend Father David Makowski, who was burning with desire to perform mission work among the inhabitants of those regions forgotten by the Creator,
decided to force the population into Christianity. So yeah, great Alex Jones here was solely responsible for the complete destruction of a pure indigenous culture. What more could have gone wrong? Well, there's still that one other thing. The thing about the local fauna taking a slight hit.
The white birds are dependent on the imposing volcano that rises above the Amazonian jungle. They are majestic skyships of sorts. Every 3 years, one of the females of the colony abandons a single egg that will, all by itself, contain the entire next generation of white birds.
But in order not to hatch little nasty black birders due to the shit the volcano spits out, the local Ovo-Volahos tribe has to conduct a detox ritual. So Alex All Humanitarian now decides to release them from their eternal burden by nicking the egg.
I stole their only egg and took it back to Europe.
So yeah, basically the Three Musketeers completely wrecked this once grade A country and all of its culture. And I didn't even mention the totally useless love story between young Indiana Jones and this local chick. Anyway, by pinching the egg, that story naturally went down the toilet. So there you have it. Backstory terminated. Anyway, for the rest of the game, we, in the skin of our non-journalist hero, will work on bringing the egg back to where it belongs.
It miraculously remained intact, not having suffered from the ravages of time.
And with that, atoning for that shitty stunt that the great white man Alexandre Valembois pulled off decades ago. Back to the task at hand. In the basement of the lighthouse, we gain access to the Batcave.
Impressive. Very nice.
And find the revamped Batwing that Vorobek Valembois built. Only that this one, cobbled together around World War II, is therefore conveniently named the Hydra Float.
Hail Hydra.
But before we can depart on our well-deserved journey, there are a couple of preparations required. First, provisions, and lots of them. Well, great that Valembois had the largest egg of the world in his basement. I mean, it's kinda hidden. Actually, completely uselessly hidden now that I think about it. Since he left hints scattered all around so that even a complete moron could find his precious third giant egg. After finding the sledgehammer and befriending a nearby wall, we find the egg and place it on this minecart. So hear me out for a second. This is supposed to be a hidden layer. But the dog conveniently built a rail system that leads from the egg directly to the Hydra Float. Rails! I mean, it's not like the first thought would have been to follow the rail tracks. But hey, pretty funny that you can't just do that in an on-rails adventure, right? Anyway, after stowing away the egg, it's time to fuel up, jailbreak the Batplane, and get the shit out of here. In style. Like if this were a bloody Universal ride. Anyway, instead of flying back home and cashing in, the autopilot seems to have kicked in. And at this point you might have noticed the pest of geese that are shitting and flying around everywhere. Some more aggressive than others, these seem to have played too much X-Wing back in the day. And escort you like natural guides to fulfill Valembois' last wish. Unfortunately, your piece of trash runs out of fuel. Exactly at the gates of a place called Shipwreck Island.
Lucky, I guess.
After entering the lagoon in submarine mode, we meet...
Codename Fisherman.
Yeah, same as journalist, just another poor soul that didn't even get a name from the devs. So this here doesn't really want to talk, and he has got a goddamn good reason for it.
No. The fish aren't biting.
Okay, sir. Can you maybe be a bit more specific?
With all the racket you've made, you've certainly frightened the fish off. There's a whale trapped down below. He must have got caught in the old nets near the wreck. As long as it's here, fish will not bite.
Action, reaction, cause and effect.
That's for sure. And I will be in a bad mood. And when I am in a bad mood, I don't feel like talking.
Great. This grumpy heatstroke grandpa is the last living soul on this god-forbidden paradise and is therefore the only one that can give us a key to continue our journey. Quite literally. So after going on Sea Life's newest and greatest Jules Verne ride, we free Willy. he starts yapping away.
Happened a long time ago. 1932. 33, maybe. There were 3 of them.
Yeah, we know, Grandpa. We already had some flashback sequences before leaving France, so let's cut the crap and fast forward to where it gets juicy. Grandpa gives us the key, and since we are on a tropical island, we go on a treasure hunt to uncover the pirate's chest and get the floppy. I still don't understand what Wallenbauer was thinking by sending the discs all over the world. I mean, he must have really trusted his local post office, and by that I mean that stupid wimp from the beginning of the game.
Hey, maybe you could take it. He has trouble moving around, you know.
Wouldn't it have been much safer to just keep the discs in the Hydra float, where these would actually have been of some use? I mean, he planned to do that with backups, but why? Why backups? It's not like that thing would have been of any use without the discs anyway. Back to the story. We find and fill a new jerrycan, yeah, because I guess we dumped the old one in the ocean or so. Refuel and continue. Great that these geese were not in a hurry and patiently waited.
Earlier that day at the lagoon.
Can we go now? Oh, wait! For what, bro? Oh, that son of a to move his ass back here! I wanna shoot on his useless face! This is gonna take ages. Heck, then subscribe to Talk's YouTube channel for God's sake and watch some of his crazy videos until that useless piece of comes back!
A few videos later.
All puzzles solved here, and our new animal friends escort us to our next destination, La Puebla. A semi-abandoned village in the middle of the Amazon Delta where you meet Valenbois' bestie, Father David
Wazowski.
Mikowski.
Wazowski?
Mikowski!
Wazowski!
Whatever. So we meet him at the graveyard where we'll end up in just a couple of minutes anyway. A tad paler and stiffer though. In case we suffer from short-term dementia, he reminds us of the obvious.
So Valenbois passed away, didn't he?
And he gives us the key to the city. Back to La Puebla, which kind of translates to the village.
What an ingenious name that is.
Unfortunately, there are some military punks at the local church.
The intruder! Bernardus! Here he is! Stop! Don't move!
They knock us out, we dream of a local chick, and find ourselves hanging from the ceiling. After carefully breaking a bottle, the shards magically fly our way, allowing us to untie ourselves, poison the guard, who conveniently goes down right in front of the door, and escape. Back to the church. But we learned something this time, didn't we? So instead of using the main entrance, we go all indie, climb down the well, which of course hides a secret entrance to the church. How could it be any other way? Inside the church we realize that Padre David got shot by these punks, but was so kind not to die right away and wait for our arrival.
They accused me of letting you into the fort. I think it's time for me to give account of my mistakes before God.
Yep, great minds think alike.
Anyway, he still continues yapping for like 2 minutes before he finally bites the dust. To pay him some respect, we simply leave him there, read the Bible, loot his place, find the floppy and yet another jerrycan. Because I guess we also gave the second one back to Mother Nature. How considerate of us. Back to the Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
And once again to the patiently waiting geese.
Earlier that day, but later than last time.
We gotta wait again? What happened last time, bro? Stop complaining! I got stuck halfway in my like a stone! And what's with all the beeping when I talk? Language. Let's talk, having to censor it again to please the YouTube algorithm.
Needless to say that nothing ever happened. And the journey continues.
And with that, we fill up the gas tank and leave in an unprecedented act of environmental contamination. After scaring away some happy hippos, we arrive at our next destination, Louis Angel's cabin. Unfortunately, Valembois' trusted guide who had abandoned and left him to die in the middle of the jungle passed away. So we end up playing a bit with some butterflies, decide to lift the gate, continue upstream and piss off the local wildlife. These not only damage our beloved Hydra, but also nick our grappling hook. And well, nowadays a first-person game without a hook simply doesn't work any longer. At this point, the devs try to indoctrinate us. Instead of going all Rambo, First Blood Part 2, and cooking this crook, our faceless hero signals us,
No way!
So we cook up some sleeping darts, let him doze off and fall. And honestly, considering the weight of a fully grown and independent rhinoceros being around 5,100 pounds give or take, this dude probably broke a couple of bones which will inevitably lead to his post-game death. Anyway, with the hook recovered we can go all bionic commando and grapple through the jungle until we reach one of those super cool water rides which lead us to our destination, the village of the Ovo-Volahos. And let's take a second to dissect this word.
Learning gaming languages with your favorite teacher talk. Ovo, Portuguese for egg. Noun, an oval or round object laid by a female bird, reptile, fish or invertebrate. Usually containing a developing embryo, the eggs of birds are enclosed in a chalky shell, while those of reptiles are in a leathery membrane. Volahos, most probably from the Italian volare, to fly. Verb, to be carried through the air by the wind or any other force or agency. Putting both words together in combination with knowing that it's a tribe's name, well, it could only mean that this is the tribe that makes the egg fly. And I don't mean this in a literal way. Yet.
Perfect! This is the place to be. To finally cook our breakfast. Only that this village has again been like semi-abandoned around 7 decades ago due to an imaginary deforestation project of which we don't see any traces. Shortly after our arrival and realizing that the game won't let us move forward without the inevitable, we give in and get bitten by a snake. Our local hallucination gets the egg ready, but is missing some ingredients for the detox ritual. But lucky us, we can find all the mats in close proximity to the village. Us, a bloody foreigner who has never left France before. And this local couldn't? Anyway, after pouring all that shit into the egg, the black cloud that emerges signals us that the detox has been successful. And after riding one of those crappy ski lifts, you know, the kind that everyone falls off when riding for the first time, we continue our journey through the virtual theme park, which unfortunately, and to no surprise with that name, leads us to the swamps and the complete and utterly destruction of our main ride. Alright, let's continue our journey on foot through the beautifully crafted and non-existent Dagobah area of Star Wars Land, and line up for one of those cozy scenic Animal Kingdom rides for kids that I always seem to enjoy more than those little brats. This conveniently leads us to Volcano Island. As maybe not mentioned before, the volcano is the place to be, and where the egg has to hatch. Of course, our supreme leader Alvarez is pissed by our plan since he fears losing his Darth Vader death grip.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Over his beloved country and shows up for a short meet and greet.
Do you really know what power is?
He then continues yapping away about his greatness.
Power is always fear.
And anyone who is only remotely observant can already realize that those flies buzzing around his shitness are a sign given by the devs.
You have come instead of Valembois, haven't you? I wanted Amerzone to be a great modern nation. A country that believes in progress.
Anyway, enough of this. To summarize the rest of the dialogue, he dies, opening the lightning lane to the last ride of the game. The Flight of the Amerzone. After naturally crash landing and realizing that the detox must have provided the egg with some vibranium armor or so, we can go ahead, place it on the altar, break it open, and instead of boiling it to perfection,
the birds hatch.
A total of 3 bloody birds. You know, I was expecting like a whole squadron, but no! 3 birds. Anyway, they fly around a bit, leave you to die inside of the volcano with no means to escape, and the game ends with a tracking shot of that hot native chick performing on Amerzone's next top model at the crater of the volcano. The end. And the credits roll. But wait, there is more. A video exclusive Talkmate post-credit scene. With the story out of the way, let's have a quick look at the world of Amerzone. And the game shares it with the Siberia series. There's a lot of fan service here. For example, the existence of Vorarlberg creations, the brown shadow logo on sidearms and fighter planes. And of course the voicemail greetings.
Thank you for calling Candyroff. Our offices are closed for the winter season,
but we'll be delighted to deal with your order at the thaw. In the meantime, why not try our delicious Hoing Ing, the bite-sized Asian fish candy with the sugary taste?
However, there's a huge difference between the two. While Siberia's locations are quite large and there's a lot of walking involved, Amerzone shines with small but condensed locations. Every corner has either something essential to progressing its story or some side info. The locations feel much more meaningful and therefore of much greater depth. The world is very atmospheric and has this really cool Jules Verne style to it, like when inside the Hydra float,
Hail Hydra!
Or when going on a walk inside this ancient diving suit. There's a big variety in the locations, which ensures that the world doesn't feel repetitive or starts getting boring.
The lighthouse in France, Shipwreck Island, the Amazon River, La Puebla, the village of the Ovo-Volahos tribe, the swamp. But wait, there is more. Collect all the badges from all the rides.
However, same as in the 1999 original, the world feels somewhat empty. Yes, it is due to the locations that you visit, which are naturally abandoned, and this does nicely represent in the atmosphere that the devs were going for. But you do meet a handful of Valemboir's pen pals along the way. All of them with their own personality, from a stubborn fisherman.
And I will be in a bad mood. And when I am in a bad mood, I don't feel like talking.
To the president of a nation.
Because power is always fear. The fear of the one who possesses it. But risks losing it.
All very well written and dubbed. I'm not sure how I feel about our protagonist though. He is nameless, faceless, and doesn't speak a single word. Anyway, the most you see of him is when he wiggles his hands around like he wants to play a bloody Wii game or so. And believe me, I've tried to find just one mirror in the entire game. And there is one. But it didn't reflect shit. Maybe I'm just overthinking this and it's just that our hero looks like an absolutely disgusting piece of
Look who's talking.
Other than that, you do interact with living beings. Happy hippos, butterflies, some unidentifiable creatures, bees, and so on. The story keeps you entertained. Again, same as in the Siberia series, it is not about saving the world. It is a much more personal one, which gives you the chance to explore a beautifully crafted world with some, not many though, interesting personalities and a clear goal in mind. And with that, story, world and characters get an 8.3 out of 10.
All that.
Let's hop over to game mechanics and controls. When you start the game, you have the standard options in the settings menu, and it's really nice to see that the devs included both the English as well as the French dub. But most importantly, you have the choice.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Between two difficulty options, Traveler and Adventurer. They should have named them Bookworm Jim and Actual Imaginary Semi-Professional Gamer. Look, this is a point-and-click adventure. They should have simply grayed out the first option and put it behind a bloody paywall. I mean, I get it. Everyone should be able to enjoy every game nowadays, right? But hey, there's an active hint system, also in Adventurer mode, which gets like very detailed. The first option is really not necessary, believe me. But let's talk about the gameplay loop a bit. In Siberia you traveled in a train which required to be wound up every now and then, which basically forced you to stop and enjoy the puzzles and the story. Amerzone is very similar in this regard. But instead of a train you travel with the one and only Hydra Float.
Hail Hydra.
It is like a bloody transformer and can convert into literally anything. But there's a caveat. Every transformation requires a program stored on a floppy disk. Some younglings amongst you might ask.
And welcome to another episode of Learning History, with your favorite teacher Talk. So these things were used back in the day to store data, like games. For most of us, it initially started with those wobbly 5 1/4 predecessors, where the data would get corrupted by just staring at them. Then came the vastly superior 3.5-inch hard-shelled environmentally friendly double-density floppy disks. They had a groundbreaking capacity of 720 kilobyte. And here comes the magic. If you punched a hole into them, you could extend the capacity to an astounding 1.44 megabyte and risking data corruption along the way. Anyway, the capacity was enough to fit over 1 whole minute of MP3 audio, which obviously wasn't a thing at the time. I hope you absorb this useless knowledge of the past and come back for another episode of Learning History, because the Z makes it look cool.
So your goal at every location is to find the floppy disk as well as a can of gas to continue your journey to the next stop. Repeat. As you might have realized by now, this is a first-person game. However, you cannot freely roam through the environments. Instead, you are on rails. You can look around 360 degrees, but you can only move to preset points. Almost all transitions between these points have been animated, which gives a great sense of immersion. But since it would be quite annoying to have to sit through these every single time, the devs included 2 additional options. First, you can cancel the animation or even set this as a default in the options menu. And second, once you've found the map of an area, you get the ability to fast travel, and this is pretty much instantaneous, no loading screens or shit like that. And within every of the locations, there's plenty to do. There are lots of documents to read through which provide info about the backstory. It's not necessary to read all of them, but then again, if you don't, you should ask yourself if this is the right game for you. And of course there are lots and lots of puzzles. These range from simple combination puzzles where you find clues, solve the puzzle and get a hint or an item, to using items you found, logic puzzles, computer puzzles, and of course the masterclass. Combining information that you find with items in your inventory to solve some of the more difficult ones. But as said before, worry not. There's a very detailed hint system in case you get stuck, no walkthrough required. The hint system is part of your diary, a very organic way of doing it actually. Besides that, you can as well read up on the latest story-relevant stuff. While in your diary, you can as well check out your loot in the inventory tab, or read up on investigations. These are more like side quests, mostly not required to progress through the game, but provide helpful background information to better understand the world, history, and character motivations. While the on-rail system pretty much limits your movement, the controls work great for what they are. Hotspots appear once you point near something that you can interact with. But still, there were times I had trouble spotting things. So you can highlight all hotspots that are in the current screen by the press of a button. This really saved me from a lot of frustration, like in this scene here, pretty much at the beginning of the game. I knew I had to use the rod at the elevator, but I simply could not figure out where exactly. I used the highlight button and voila, no problems, no frustration. And yes, it felt a bit like cheating using such quality of life improvements. Then there are also a lot of smaller and bigger, let's call them contextual interactions, which lighten up the gameplay a little. And in case you need to use an object on these, once it's time to use the object, there's really no need to open up the inventory. Instead, an item selection wheel will conveniently appear. In summary, the gameplay loop is here to satisfy the switch in locations. There's a lot to read if you wish to dive deep into the backstory, and the puzzles never felt too illogical. Well, with one exception that kind of frustrated me and took me quite some time to figure out, but that seems to be a staple of the franchise.
These feet are incorrect, Kate Walker.
While the hint system helps out in such situations, like a lot, you still need to pay a bit of attention. The controls are very smooth and intuitive, and gameplay scores an 8.3 out of 10. While I would have liked for the gameplay to allow for free movement and exploration instead of being stuck on rails, I do understand and appreciate where the devs came from. They remade the 1999 original, which basically was just like that. And this brings us to presentation, and visuals are first. So once again, you have the choice: the 1999 original or the 2025 remake. The presentation is vastly improved over the original. I mean, yeah, anything else would have been a disaster. The game now presents itself in 4K, and on the PS5 it aims towards 60 FPS, not quite reaching it though. You can choose between performance and resolution mode, and initially, as always, I went for performance. But that was a mistake. Performance mode on the base PS5 has extremely inconsistent frame rates. While looking around, it may start at 60, but then dip down to like 25 every now and then. It really broke the immersion for me, and I immediately switched to resolution mode. Here you get more like 4K 30, but quite consistent. And the 4K resolution of course avoids all those flickering edges, even if you play it on a 1080p display like I did. Resolution mode simply delivers the better experience here. But the visuals are not the only thing that is different between original and remake. Let's have a look. The original did not have any screen transitions whatsoever. The devs added a lot of details and additional subsections into the game, like here the cabin on Shipwreck Island, which wasn't there before. There are also some small changes in the tone. In the remake, for example, you lure the wildlife with some sweet honey. Well, you had to be much more of a badass in the OG and let a bee attack rain upon them. There are quite some gameplay changes as well. The remake is much more complex and requires you to, for example, unlock the basement, solve a puzzle to switch on the lights, and much more, while the OG provided a much simpler experience. And puzzles in general were a lot simpler or non-existent in the original. Like you didn't have to put the egg on the minecart or manually move it into the Hydra float. It was pretty much preloaded and an automatic thing. The devs added a lot of quality of life improvements which make for a much smoother experience, like the hint system or the ability to highlight all points of interest. Or having visual feedback when using the grappling hook. In 1999, you didn't really know if you were locking onto something or not. It was much more of a guesswork at that time. After playing the remake and the original back-to-back, the story of the OG feels very disjointed since many parts were not present, yet. For example, the priest who got shot. In the remake you can hear the shot from the distance and an NPC commenting on it.
I guess someone didn't want to talk.
It makes for a much more cinematic experience. While the save screen in the original is like super cool, I mean you feel like in a small lighthouse. For some reason the movement translates into the game, and when you get back, your orientation completely changes. That's a bit disturbing. The remake? Autosave. And lastly, of course, the Siberia references, like the brown sugar sugar? And lastly, of course, the Siberia references, like the brown shadow symbols, were not in the original. I mean, how could they? These games were released like years or decades later. But not everything is worse in the original. I really enjoyed some of the transitions that had clear influences from Indiana Jones. And quite frankly, the original takes around 3 to 4 hours to complete, instead of 10 to 12 for the remake. When reading all the documents, that is. So it is easier to just pick up and play through in an evening. Also, the color palette was less vibrant, reflecting a little bit better Benoit Sokal's art style from the first 2 Siberia games. Back to the visuals. It is great to see that the devs did respect the source material and included these flashbacks to tell the backstory. These feel like Sokal himself is drawing them as you watch. I feel these intermissions as well as this particular scene from La Puebla were included as a tribute to a great artist and great game developer. If you can't tell by now, this game looks good. Really good. Shipwreck Island, for example, gave me the feeling to just wanting to pack my gear and fly to the Caribbean. Or the waterfall and great machinery later in the game. It looks breathtaking. And since the complete game is in first person, this would be a perfect title to be enjoyed in VR. And maybe the devs watch this video and give it a thought. I would be hyped beyond belief if they would announce Amerzone VR. This remake is very well crafted. I almost didn't encounter any bugs and absolutely no crashes. It runs very stable and it was definitely the right decision to delay its release by a couple of months. The only bug I encountered was in this scene here. I first thought that the basement was flooded. I mean, it's a lighthouse after all, right? But no, it was just a minor visual glitch that disappeared on its own. And another thing to mention is, there is no interface. And if you want, you can even deactivate all overlays, like the tasks or the mouse pointer. Remember when Dead Space was first released? All the magazines praised it for having the interface completely integrated into the game. Well, some point-and-click adventures like Amerzone 1999 did this way earlier. And this is great, because it not only contributes to the immersion, but also lets me place my logo wherever the hell I want to. Bottom left? No problem. Or here? Okay. It doesn't cover any possible user interface since, well, there is none. On the sound front, everything is very immersive. Since there are not many characters and therefore very few dialogues, environmental sounds are very important. And yep, all here and all high quality. Different sounds for different surfaces like wood or sand. Water splashing against the hull. And many more subtle effects like the distortions when picking up a signal in the middle of the jungle.
If anyone can hear this, please help us.
The only sounds that completely broke the immersion for me were the voices of some of the second-tier NPCs. As soon as they opened their bloody mouth...
So tell me, who sent you? CIA? FSB? You'd better start talking. Because as soon as my comrade is done with the priest...
Yeah, so this guy is supposed to be local, like South America jungle local. Well, that's a failure. Everything in this category is very atmospheric. The main menu, for example, simple, with subtle animations and an atmospheric background music. It really sets the mood for this remake of Benoit Sokal's first game. And the music was really not what I expected when starting the game. Yes, some of it has its distinct vibe that also the Siberia games provide. Like the score that starts playing when you enter the child correction facility in La Puebla. But then there are other tracks that are more in line with what you would expect from the South American setting. String music specifically. It's great to see that the devs did not simply stick to the known formula, but that they mixed it up a bit and took the setting into consideration. And with that, the visual sound and music get an 8.7 out of 10. On to the overall score. I initially found the story to be a weird one. I mean, a journalist trying to fulfill an old man's wish, someone that he barely knew, only from a couple of business-related letters. And to do so traveling to the other side of the globe in a weird mechanical creation called the Hydra Float.
Hail Hydra.
But the more I played, the more it made sense. Not only is moral commitment of going on this journey, but also the sense of excitement for exploration that he must have felt. Exploring a wonderfully crafted world of the unknown and meeting just a handful of interesting characters along the way. While I would have liked to be more in control of this adventure and be allowed to explore to my heart's content, I do appreciate the devs sticking to the original formula and letting the player move on rails. And they did expand the world and included many new puzzles and lots of optional quality of life improvements. The presentation is brilliant, mostly 4K 30 on the base PS5 and one of the most beautiful 3D point-and-click adventures out there. The music and sound complement the atmosphere of the game. At least when not being completely destroyed by the lousy voice acting in the English dub for one or two of the second-tier NPCs.
Who sent you? CIA? FSB?
But let's be honest here, this only makes up for like 2 to 3 minutes of gameplay. Otherwise, everything came perfectly together, and with that, Amerzone gets an overall score of 8.4 out of 10. If I were to summarize this game in one sentence, I would say,
Amerzone is an egg boiled to perfection and a great tribute to Benoit Sokal's first game.
Let's have one last glance at it. So, after finishing the story, you unlock the chapter access from the main menu. You can now jump right into any chapter and complete your open investigations. Otherwise, there's not much objective replayability here. However, if you like Benoit Sokal's works, you will definitely come back to this one every now and then, like a good book or movie. That's all for this review of Amerzone. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.